Hello, good morning once again. Welcome to GS 182, which is your introductory biology course. My name is Vincent Wong, and I will be your instructor for the semester. So we do have a full class, but not everybody is here at the moment. But that's okay because you guys are here. I want to respect your time. We're going to go ahead and get started. Now, before we do the actual lecture, I would like to orient you a little bit about the course, where tell you where to find things, the expectation of the course, and so on and so forth. I believe I'm your first class of the program, right? Yesterday was holiday, so I don't think you had other classes yet, which means I will spend a bit of extra time telling you more about the different platforms we have at Centennial and where to find things in general. So you are all here, which is great because that means you received my email, right? That I sent out last week. And email is the primary way of communication, especially for online courses. By the way, this is being recorded. So if you missed anything that I've said during class, or you need to revisit some of the concepts later on, you will be able to find a recording of this. And I also turn on closed captioned. If you have trouble, hearing me speak, and you want some, closed caption, you have the option of turning that on as well. If I'm going too fast, just let me know and I'll adjust my pace accordingly. So at Centennial, we have two different main platforms that you have to familiarize yourself with, okay? We have what's called the My Centennial, okay? So My Centennial. That's sort of where you pay your tuition, get your timetable. It's more like for administrative kind of things, okay? So if you haven't got your full timetable and you want to know where it is, you will log on to My Centennial. You can just type this directly into Google, and then it will link you to it. For the learning aspect, you will be using eCentennial. Okay, so that's our, you hear some of your teachers say LMS, your learning management system. That's where you will find all your courses, you will find learning materials, and for online delivery, that is also where you will be taking your assessments. So if there's a quiz, if there's a test, if you need to hand in assignment, everything will be done through eCentennial. So in the email that I have sent you, I already gave you a link to get to the homepage. So if you log on to eCentennial in general, you will see something like this. Okay, you will see all the courses that you're taking. I'm teaching the biology courses. That's why I have multiple biologies. You are section 201. Okay, so it's important when you email me and ask questions to tell me which section you are from. Okay, as you can see, I'm teaching multiple sections. If you tell me which section you're in, it will make it easier for me to locate you and pull up your file and answer your question properly. Okay, so you are section 201. Now, if you go into our course homepage, everything you need for the course is already uploaded. By the way, if you have questions, just type it in the chat or use the raise hand button and interrupt me. Okay, you don't have to wait until the end. Just ask if you need any clarification. So on eCentennial, everything is available for my course. Right? So like I said, it's an online course. So sometimes if you want to read ahead, all right, you want to learn ahead, you have the PowerPoints available to you. So that's a news item. Okay? Every week I will post news items to remind you, what's coming up. If there's a quiz coming up, information about the quiz. as well as some reminders, some recap. I call it debriefs, right? That tells you what we've done in the past week in case you missed a lecture, where you'll be able to find a recording and so on and so forth. All right. So this is the first news item, which is very similar to the email I sent you. You have your Zoom link, right? That you'll be using for every single class. Every single biology class, I mean, okay? So Thursday is our next class, right? We meet twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursdays, 8:30 to 10:20, okay? That's the time slot. And it will be using the same Zoom link, right? Some people email me Thursday, like, where's the link? It's the same one. So just bookmark it, keep it in a safe place. Some of you might need a passcode, some of you might not, depending what device you're logging in from. All right. So class notes, I will tell you where to get it in a second. A lot of people are concerned about textbooks. You don't need a textbook in this course. The PowerPoint slide that I give you, along with the study guide, should be sufficient in preparing you to do well on the assessments. Okay, the textbooks are just for reference purpose only. So if you need extra reading material to clarify some things, you would have the option of using an open source textbook. So if you click on it, it will take you to the open source textbook. And so like lecture 1, we'll be learning about the process of science. If you want to read more about it, you have the option of doing that. Now, the thing about these online textbooks is sometimes they go into much more detail than we do in class. So you are only responsible for the material we cover in class. Okay, so from the PowerPoint, from the study guide, only. If you read extra things that we didn't talk about in the textbook, you won't be tested on it. Okay. Now, most importantly, you will see a lot of tabs up here, right? So you want to click on the content tab. So on the side, you will see all the folders. Okay. So under lectures, you will see lecture 1 all the way to lecture 10. The course is split up into 2 halves. We have the first half covering lecture 1 to 5, and then the second half is lecture 6 to 10. Yes, the lecture is being recorded and it will be posted online after. I'll tell you where to find it in a bit. Okay. So let me write this down for you. We have unit 1, right, which is the first half of the course, lecture 1 to lecture 5. And then there will be 2 quizzes. Quiz 1 is 10%. Quiz 2 is also 10%. And you will have a test as well. We'll call it test 1, which is 20%, as well as a lab, which is 10%. Okay, so that is going to make up basically 50% of the course. And then we will have unit 2, which is lecture 6 to lecture 10. You will have quiz 3, 10%, quiz 4, 10%, test 2, 20%, and then we have lab 2, which is 10%. Okay, I'll get to your question in a second, Jamie. Hold on. So the tests are not cumulative. Okay, what that means is test number 2 will only include material from lecture 6 to lecture 10. Okay? You won't be tested on these things once you have completed test 1, as you can burn all the notes after we reach around week 7. Okay, we start clean slate starting from lecture 6 onward for the second half of the course. So that's the breakdown of the grades. I'll tell you more about the evaluations in a bit, but any question about the grade distribution here?
No.
Okay, thank you, Maria. There is no exam, okay? Madison, the test is the kind of like the cumulative piece. Okay, so you have two main tests. Test one covering first half of the course, and test two covering the second half of the course. There's no final exam. Okay. Now the labs are done fully online. There is going to be we call these dry labs. Okay, so you might be doing simulations and you'll be watching demos and then you'll be completing a worksheet essentially. People generally do quite well on these, and as we get closer to the due dates for the labs, I will give you more information about it. Okay, so this course is completely online. You do not need to go to campus. If for whatever reason you really want to see me to talk about things, you can book an appointment. Okay, I will be on campus some days of the week, so that is an option for you. But we can also arrange like a one-on-one Zoom meeting if that's what you need as well. Now, to reach me, you can just email me. Okay, vwong@centennialcollege.ca. That is my email. It's in the first line of every PowerPoint slides. Okay, PowerPoint file. Like if you open the lecture, right, my email is on the first slide of every PowerPoint. So that's where you can find my email address. You can also copy it down now if you want. Again, when you email me, tell me what section you're from. You are from section 201. And I reply email very, very quickly. Okay. As long as I'm like not asleep, I get back to you, even like sometimes at 10 p.m. Okay. So I'll get back to you. Don't hesitate to ask me questions if you need help with anything at all. Now here's the thing: if you email me and you don't get a reply from me for more than one day, that means I did not get your email. Okay, there are tons of reasons why that could happen. Okay, people key in the wrong email address. There's more than one Vincent Wong at the college. Okay, you might have sent it to another person by mistake. Okay, um, or maybe it's just a glitch in the system. So if you don't hear back from me for more than 1 week, um, sorry, one day, right? One day. If you don't hear back from me for more than one day, just double check the email address, resend it. Okay, I will always get back to you. Right? You might find my phone number somewhere in the college system. I don't know where. It's somewhere there, but don't call me. Okay. I don't have a phone. Like I don't have access. The physical phone is in the office, right? And obviously, I'm not at the office right now. The fastest way to reach me is to email me. All right. So let me go back to the eCentennial. After you click on content, you will see all the lectures here, or all the folders for each of the lecture. I'm just gonna click into the first folder here. Within each of the folder, you will see lecture notes as well as study resources. So if you click on lecture notes, you will see that there is the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So some of you like to take notes. Excuse me. Some of you like to take notes electronically, so you can download the PowerPoint slide and then take notes while I go through it with you in class. There is the PDF version. This one has 3 slides per page. It's more printer friendly if you like to take notes by hand. But they are the exact same information. Okay, and then there's the study guide. Now you have to download and preferably print the study guide, because that's something we'll be working on throughout the class as well. Now we're not going to be able to finish the whole study guide together. Okay, that's going to take like too much time. So I will do as much as I can with you, and the rest you'll have to work on during your own time. And I will post the answer as well for you to compare the answers to. If you click on study resources, there will always be a link to the online textbook, supplementary reading. It will take you directly to the section that's relevant to the particular lecture. Because we are talking about scientific method, if you click on it, it will take you to the process of science. When we learn about cell, it will take you to the chapter of cell. So rather than you scrolling around to find the right section in the textbook, you just click on the link. It will take you directly to what you need. And again, the textbook is just for reference. All right, you don't have to study the textbook unless if you feel that that's helpful. But things in the textbook that are extra, you're not responsible for them in the lecture. Other things people like to do is they like to go online. Like this thing is a little bit confusing for me. Um, in the past, students don't come to my lecture and then they watch the stuff on YouTube and learn it that way. That makes no sense to me. Okay, like I am the one who's writing the test. The content is gonna be based on what I teach you, not what the YouTuber teaches you, right? So make sure you use come to class, of course, and if you can't come to class, make sure you watch the recordings afterwards to see what you have missed. Okay. Now, instead of you scouring through the internet to find the relevant video, I have collected a bunch of videos that I found to be relevant to what we're learning. Okay, so each lecture would have a set of collection of videos, and you can watch them. Okay, to help you understand more. So we will be learning about the Rady and Pasteur experiment in lecture 1. If you need to watch an animation on it, right, there it is. You just click on it and then it will play. You can also, of course, like make it bigger and whatnot, right? You can download them as well. You can comment on it if you want. Um, so again, these are just extra resources. And the thing about these online videos is sometimes, again, they go into more details than you need to know. So any extra things that they talk about that we did not cover in class, you will not be responsible on the test. I'm going to pause for a moment here. Does anyone have any question?
No.
Okay, great. There are some crosswords you can do. There will be a lot of vocabularies that will be learning, a lot of terms, and you want to familiarize yourself with it, right? So the crosswords will help you do just that. If you click on it, it will tell you a tentative, testable explanation for an observation. So you can type in the answer. If you don't know what the answer is, you can click solve, and then it will tell you what it is. So this is a great way to learn the vocabularies and to help you study. Now back to study resources. You will also have a self quiz for each of the lecture. So a couple things about these self quizzes. Okay, the questions are not necessarily representative of the actual quiz. Okay, some people get perfect on the self quiz, and then they don't do so well on the actual quiz, and then they complain and like the self quiz questions are so much easier. Yeah, they are supposed to be that way. They're designed to be that way. Okay, the self quiz questions are just questions, basic questions that tells you where you are at. Okay, like if you are able to do all the self quiz questions, that means you are at a pretty good starting spot. Okay, but you got to do more, right? Because the actual quiz questions, actual test questions, they are more difficult. They require more thinking. But nevertheless, right, do take the time to do some of these self quiz for each of the lecture as a studying tool. Okay, uh, but my point is just because you get perfect on it, don't automatically assume that you're ready for the actual assessment. Now, when we take assessment in an online environment, we use something called lockdown browser. Are you guys familiar with that concept? If you can quickly, give me a thumbs up and the icon if you know what I'm talking about, or if you don't know what it is, you can say no in the chat box. No, yes, maybe.
Yeah.
No, okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. A lot of people have not heard of this before. So it's not just my course. You will be using it in other courses as well, chemistry and math probably. So for those of you who do not know, Lockdown Browser is a software that you have to download, and I will post the instruction on how to do that after class. Um, so once you download it, you will have to use it every time you take an assessment online. Okay. What it does is basically it will lock down your internet browser. Okay, so you won't be able to access other websites. Right? You won't be able to copy and paste text from your tests and put it into, I don't know, like ChatGPT or something. And then you will also not be able to take screenshot. Right? So you'll be logged into your browser until you have um, completed your test. And this will be the same for everybody. Okay. So if you have an IEP, if you have accommodation requirements, okay, you will still have to be using the lockdown browser. Okay. So I'll post the instruction on how to do that later on. But you don't want to be doing it for the first time when you are taking your first quiz, okay? Because things could go wrong, right? Like you might waste time installing it and so on and so forth. So that's why for the first self quiz, I've also activated the lockdown browser. Okay, so you want to use this as a practice, okay? How to download the software. You only have to download it once, okay? But get familiar with the interface so there are no surprises. Now, the quiz and the test, how is it gonna be? For the test and the quiz, it will be available on the day of the test and the quiz. Okay, I'll tell you when those are. But let's say I'm making this up. Okay, let me see. You have a schedule that you can download. I will tell you where to get that in a second. But our first quiz will be on September 21st. September 21st. That's a Thursday. So on September 21st, the quiz will be available from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Okay. We will still have class on the day of the quiz. Okay, so you will still have to come to class at 8:30. Right? But then you will be able to do your quiz anytime from 6 until midnight, basically. Right? So typically a quiz is like 40 minutes long, I think, and for a test is roughly 70 minutes to 80 minutes long. Right? Once you start the test or quiz, the timer will not stop. Okay, so you cannot start the quiz at 7 a.m., do it for half an hour, and then close the browser, and then come back to do it later in the afternoon. Like the timer will not stop even though you close the browser. Okay, so when you do your quiz and test, make sure you're in a place that's like you're not going to be interrupted. It's going to be a quiet time, quiet place, and you'll be able to sit down for the duration of the entire quiz. Does that make sense? Any question about the evaluations? Okay. Now, having said that, I am a pretty reasonable and flexible person. So things happen. Your internet connection might be a little bit unstable for whatever reason. Okay. So if you do get disconnected midway, um, and you're not able to get back in, and by the time your internet is restored, the quiz is over or something, that's okay. Don't panic. Okay. Just send me an email, explain to me your situation. I'll be able to review your log history, and then most of the time I'll just let you retake the quiz. Okay. But if every time we have a quiz and you tell me your internet goes down, then it's a little bit suspicious, right? But within reason, right? I will be able to accommodate you. Okay. Should anything happens. In terms of the format of the evaluation, right, you will have standard multiple choice questions. Right? These are questions that would have one correct answer. They are typically 1 mark each. Right? You will have multi-select question. These are 2 marks each. Okay, multi-select questions are questions that have multiple correct answers. Right? So there might be 2 correct answers, there might be 3 correct answers, there might be 1 correct answer, and you have to pick out all of them in order to get full marks. And then there will be application questions, which is 1 mark each. So these are multiple choice questions are like recollection of information, knowledge base, right? Are you able to find the which of the following is an example of a carbohydrate? Okay, so that's like knowledge-based question. There's no thinking involved. It's just recalling information. Application questions would be, using what you've learned and be able to apply it to a particular scenario. So that those tends to be a little bit harder. Um, and a majority of the question will be just multiple choice, okay, with a bit of multi-select and a bit of application question. I will tell you the proportion of each type of question for each quiz as we get closer to the quiz dates. Now, if we go back to the content tab, um, there are the virtual labs, which we're not going to talk about today. I'll tell you more about it later as we get closer to it. If you go to useful information, there is a course outline that you can download. So the course outline looks something like this. Okay, this is the like the legal agreement, right, between the college and you about taking the course. You should save a copy in your computer. You might be able to use it in the future. Okay, let's say you finish our program and then you decided to go to somewhere else to study another program. Okay, and then they also have a biology course, but then you're like, I already took biology at Centennial. You would send them this course outline, this document, and then they will review it and say, okay, since you took it at Centennial, it's a very similar course. You might be able to get exempt from it. Right? So keep a copy of it. It tells you, the evaluation scheme and so on and so forth. It also has a like topical outline that tells you what we do and when the quizzes are. But we are not going to be following this schedule in terms of the quiz time and the lab time. Instead, you can download the weekly schedule. Okay, so again, for those of you who is a little bit lost, you go to eCentennial, you click on content, and then from content you go to useful information, and then you want to download the weekly schedule. So in the weekly schedule, it will look something like that. All right, so today is our first class. We'll be learning about scientific method. We'll continue to learn about scientific method on Thursday, and then so on and so forth. And then you will have your first quiz, right, on September 21st. It will cover lecture 1 and lecture 2, right? So it will tell you when things are happening. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, at Centennial, we have something called the engagement week. You basically get a week off to just take a break, I guess, before you come back and have the second half of the course. So the engagement week is going to be happening in the 24th, the week of 23rd, October 23rd. All right. So like I said, you will still have class when we take the quiz, right? So you won't be taking the quiz during the class time. You can do it either before or after. All right. I think that's everything I need to tell you about. Oh, there's a question. Engagement week is when you will come in person. No, engagement week is like, I mean, I think they have activities at the college for students, but it's up to you, right? Like you can just stay home if you wish, and just rest, recuperate. Usually there are no tests afterwards. Usually, okay. Well, there is no test afterwards for my course, anyways. So that's one less thing to worry about. And people usually just think of it as a week off. Okay, basically that's what that's what it is. Okay, that's everything I wanted to share with you. Oh, useful information. There is also about the Lockdown browser. I'll post a link to it so that you can read about it. Some frequent asked questions. Oh, and the tutorial recording. Forgot about that. So if you click on the tutorial recording under useful information, it will take you to this document online. You probably want to bookmark that as well. So there's nothing there right now because this is our first class. But after class, I will post a link. Right, you guys are the morning class, the section 201. You will be able to watch the recording. Okay. Do you guys have a class in the afternoon as well for another subject?
Yes.
What is it? Is it math?
I think it's math at 12:30 or
Math at
something.
12 there? Okay, yeah, yeah. So you guys will probably I was gonna say, like, if you missed the morning class and you don't want to watch the recording, you can come to my afternoon class as well. Okay, like it's the same link. Right? It's like, I'll be repeating myself in the afternoon. But I get it. Like sometimes you guys are busy. You have other commitments, right? You got to take your kids to school or whatever, and then you miss the first half an hour or something of the lecture. That's totally fine. Okay, like I'm not gonna be judgy about it. You can just watch the recording afterwards. It's not a problem at all. However, it's important to come to class, I have to say, right? A lot of people, attendance is great today. We have 30 people in the class. Now we have like 27 um, here, which is great. But as time goes on, people start to not show up, and that's when things are gonna uh, the grades are gonna go down, right? So we do cover quite a bit every class. In terms of the test, though, I don't want you to like freak out. Okay, I don't want you to be like, oh, like he's making it impossible. It's not true. Okay, the tests are really reasonable. If you study, and then you come to the quiz, you should be fine. Okay, um, what happens is people don't study, right? Because they think it's an online course, and then they think they can just look things up in the notes, right? It's not like that. Like if you spend too much time looking through the notes, you will not have time to finish the quiz, right? So you must study. You can't just like wing it, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. There, someone asked me, Sanjay asked me, is there a place in Bryce in the on East Centennial, we call it, where you can see the current grade? Yep, there is a grade section, right? If you click on the grade section, you'll be able to see it. Okay. Like I mean,
Um,
I can't really see it because I'm the teacher, right? But as a student, you'll be able to see it. Okay.
sorry, question.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, please.
In regards to grades, I do understand with the pre-health science that you actually do have to take all the classes corresponding, like you can't drop or anything, like you have to take them all one semester.
Mm.
But hypothetically, would we have like our majority of our grades before that drop date just in case?
Yeah. So like by design, you would have at least 50% of your grades by the drop day. The drop day is November 10th. I think that's the drop day for this semester. Let me just quickly verify that. Yep, November 10th is the drop day. For those of you who don't know, that's the day where you can drop a course without academic penalty. What that means is if you drop the course before then, it will not show up on your transcript. Okay, if you drop it after that day, there will be a little notation beside telling people that, oh, this student dropped the course. Okay, but don't worry about that. Okay, if you after the first quiz you feel, oh, this is more than I anticipated, right? There are help available. We have free tutoring service available at the college. I am available for extra help. Okay, I want you guys to succeed. Okay, I am always here to help you. And like I said, the quiz are reasonable. Right? They are not like I'm not trying to fail anyone. That's not my intent. All right. Um, and actually, I want to say this as well. Right. It is completely okay to have some help sheet in front of you. I am not saying you are not allowed to use your notes. That is not what I'm saying at all. Feel free to use your notes, okay? But don't use the whole binder, okay? Don't print all the notes and then flip through it online or try to find answer online on your phone. That's not the way to approach the online assessments, okay? You have to do your basic studying as you would for an in-person test. And then, in an online environment, you have the luxury of having like I would say like maximum like 2 page front and back like summary notes. Yeah, yeah, like a cheat sheet, right? That's okay. If you don't like to call it a cheat sheet, call it a help sheet, call it whatever the heck you want it. Okay, it's okay. It's not cheating. I'm telling you, you can use it for my course. Okay, I don't know what your other professors are saying. You follow their rules, but for the biology, it's okay. In fact, I encourage you to make a help sheet for the purpose of the test. Okay, it's not cheating. There are a lot of stuff that you have to memorize. And some things you just need to write down to have a quick reference. That's okay. That's because that's how the real world works as well, right? Like, if I forget something, if I forget a recipe or something while I'm cooking, what am I gonna do? Like, just try to wing it? No, I look it up online, right? Okay. So, but for the constraint of the time constraint, for the test, you don't want to be, flipping through all your notes, right? Make one sheet. Is that clear? Do you guys understand what I'm trying to tell you? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yep. And like I said, right, hopefully I'm conveying the point that I am a pretty uh laid back person. So, if you have any concerns, questions, just feel free to ask me. All right, that's it for now. I talked too much already. We're gonna get started with today's lecture. Um, so I mean I don't know if you guys had biology recently, right? Some of you might have had it a while back. Some of you might have, taken it last year in high school, right? And then you're just coming into the college, post-secondary education. I don't know what your background is. Some of you might even have a medical degree, back home. Uh, and whatever your background is, I am going to be teaching it from the basic level. Okay, I'm going to assume that you have not done this before, and so we will start at a very fundamental point. So the first lesson is called scientific methods. Okay, um, this is a important lesson because it directly relates to your first lab. Your first lab is called the Beetroot Lab, where uh, you'll be watching someone do an experiment, and then you'll be answering questions about it, and it involves a decent understanding of what the scientific method is. Okay, so let's get to it. Now, this is a biology course, so it's good to understand what exactly biology is, right? So a very basic definition is for biology is that it is the scientific study of living things. Scientific study of living things. Well, that leads to the next question, right? What exactly is defined as a living thing? We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's look at some branches of biology. Right? Biology is this big encompassing subject, and then there are multiple divisions, multiple specialties, right, within biology. We have something called anatomy. Right? Anatomy basically is, what is it called? Right, so you look at a body part and you're like, hey, what's that called? Right, oh, that's the kidney. And within the kidney, there are different structures. What do you call that part of the kidney? What do you call this part of the kidney? So the naming aspect of the body structure, we call that anatomy. Anatomy. Physiology. Physiology is basically, what does it do? What does it do? Okay. So, you look at the heart. You're like, oh, the heart has like flaps in it. We call them valves. Right. So the anatomy aspect is naming the valve, right? Like a bicuspid valve, for example. And then the physiology aspect would be, what does the valve do? Right? What happens if it's not working? So next semester, you will be taking a second course called Anatomy and Physiology. Right? I also teach that course, so you might run into me again, and that's where you will be learning about organs, what they do, what their name is, and so on and so forth. Now we also have something called histology. Histology is the study of cells and tissues. Okay, so anybody want to guess what this picture is? This is histology. Okay, this is a part of the body. It's some kind of organ. You cut it into really thin slices. You color them with stains, and then you look at them under the microscope. Wild guess. Anybody want to tell me what this might be? You can type in the chat box. You can unmute and tell me. Just guess. Yeah, it's some kind of cells. Okay, where medicine says stomach. Anyone else? Cell membrane. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good guesses. That's the kidney. Okay, kidney. That's the kidney, right? And you will have no trouble identifying that next semester, right? After you've learned it. This semester, we will also be doing genetics. Okay, genetics is the study of heredity. Right. So if you have blue eyes, your spouse have brown eyes, what's the probability that your child is going to have blue eyes? Okay, we'll talk about genetic disorder. Right? If one parent has sickle cell anemia and the other doesn't, what's the probability that the child will have the condition? All right, so there are many different branches of biology, right? Some you will learn next semester, some you will learn this semester. By the way, these notes that I kind of scribble on the PowerPoints along the way, they will be gone at the end of lecture. There's no way for me to save them, okay? So if you miss some of them, the only way to find them is to watch the recordings afterwards. Okay, so the scientific study of living things, right? So what exactly is considered as living? Right? So, I mean, we can do a pretty decent job to classify whether something is living or not. Like if I ask you if a zebra is living or not, you probably will be able to tell me it's living, right? The goldfish is living, tree is living, teddy bear, ball, chair, these are non-living things. So we have a pretty good idea of how to classify things into living or non-living. But things are not so clear cut all the time in science, right? You cannot always fit things into one category versus the other. Some things are kind of in between and you're not so sure what it is. So a virus, for example, a virus is one of those things where scientists doesn't really classify it as living or non-living. Okay, it has the characteristics of living things, but then it also has a lot of characteristics of non-living things. Okay, one of the sticking points of classifying whether a virus is living or not is whether they are able to reproduce. Right, as you can imagine, all living things must be able to reproduce, right? You must be able to create a next generation. So virus is a little bit tricky because it has the potential to reproduce, but it cannot do it by itself. Okay. So in order for a virus to replicate, it must first infect a host, right? It must go into a living thing and then hijack its reproductive machinery and then make copies of itself, right? So because they can't really reproduce on their own, some people say that it's non-living, okay? Uh, but then some argue, well, ultimately it's able to make copies of itself, so we should consider it as living. It doesn't really matter. My point is, some things are just not, black and white. There are things that are unclear, things that are ambiguous, and that's the way how science works in general. Now, life takes many different forms. Okay, we have the poison dart frog here, which looks very different from this. It's called a Portuguese man of war. It's like this poisonous jellyfish, right? And then we have the oxalotl here. They all look very different. Okay, certainly very different from like a plant, right? A mushroom. All these things are very different. Even though they look very different on the outside, there are actually some common characteristics that they all share. Okay, so we're gonna look at some key features of living things. First characteristic is order. Okay? All living things exhibit complex but ordered organization. Okay, if you look at their structure, things rarely appears to be random. Okay, so there is symmetry, right? Most organisms have some kind of symmetry, okay, especially animals, okay, like humans, left-right symmetry, right? Butterfly, left-right symmetry, dog, all these things have some kind of symmetry. There is some kind of geometry to it. This is a seashell, right? Fun fact, if you measure the distance from the center of the seashell to the edge of each spiral, the ratio is the same for each layer. Okay, so there's some, again, organization to it. Okay, the number of petals that you find on flowers are multiples of 3 and 7 sometimes. And even at the cellular level, this is a stem, okay, the stem of a plant, some kind of flower. I'm not sure what kind of flower, but even at the cellular level, you can see organization. Okay, so things are not random. Things appears to uh, have complex and ordered organization. That's the first characteristics of living things. And in terms of an organism, this organization actually begins all the way at the atomic level. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example. Actually, can someone give me an example of an atom that you will find in the body? What are some common atoms that we have in the body? I'll give an example to help you start it off, okay? Like carbon is an example of an atom. It's very common in the body. Does anyone have another one? Another example? Okay. So Nina said calcium. That's good. Anyone else?
Oxygen.
Oxygen. Yeah. Anyone else? Ramon also said oxygen. Potassium. Kiana, sorry. Yeah, so these are all atoms, right? Okay. And atoms, they could come together to form molecules. Okay. Nitrogen is another one. Very good. So what's an example of molecule? Well, for example, H2O, right? That is water. Does anyone know an other molecule in the body? Do try to participate a little bit, okay? So that it's not just me talking for 2 hours. Keep you engaged. CO2, yeah, good. That's another one, right? Right. Sugar, right? So these are molecules. When you take atoms and put them together, you get molecules. And then you get like really big molecules. These are small molecules. You get bigger molecules. And then for molecules, you will be able to make organelles, cells, so on and so forth. Okay, so you might not know what all these things mean at this moment, but that's what we'll be learning for the next couple of weeks, right? Starting next class, we'll be learning about atoms and molecules and macromolecules. And then in lecture 3, we'll move on and learn about the cell and organelle. Next semester, you will be doing the organs, right? I said the like the hearts, the stomach, and the kidney, and so on and so forth. This semester, this biology focuses more on the cell, okay, and everything that happens within the cell. Is CK an atom? C is an atom. C is carbon, and K is potassium. That is also an example of an atom. All right. Don't worry too much about these examples for now. Oh, creatine kinase, that's not an atom. That is an enzyme. Okay, we'll be learning about enzyme uh, next class, I think, maybe, or not next class, next week. Yeah, next week. Zinc, yeah, Zn is another one. Great, you guys know a lot of atoms. I will be sure to let your chemistry teacher know. And next one. Okay, so we were talking about characteristics of living things. First one is, there's order to it, right? There's organization. The next one is the ability to maintain homeostasis. Homeostasis. So homeostasis means internal balance. Internal balance. Okay. So despite changing environments, right? It's getting hot today. It was really cold last week. We are able to maintain a core body temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. That's an example of homeostasis. Okay. You might have changes that are occurring within the body. Okay. And you want to counteract those changes. Okay, so for example, you have too much, you ate a bag of chips. Okay, now you have too much sodium in your bloodstream. Your body wants to lower it. Okay, sometimes you might be sweating a lot. You don't have enough sodium. You're losing sodium. your body will bring the sodium level back up. So these ways of maintaining an internal balance despite of changes that are going on, that's called homeostasis. Now, there are different types of homeostasis. We have what's called physiological homeostasis as well as behavioral homeostasis. Physiological is referring to things that your body does for you. Okay. If it's really hot outside, you're waiting at the bus stop for like 10 minutes for the bus to come, and it's really, really hot, right? So physiological mechanism to cool you off would be like sweating. Okay. Your body does that for you, right? Like you don't have to deliberately do anything. Okay. For for behavioral mechanism in the same case, right? Like you're sweating, really hot. So you might start fanning yourself, right? You might have one of those dollar shop electronic fan to cool you off. These are things that you learn to do, right? That you deliberately do. So that's considered as behavioral. You understand the difference? Right? If it's really cold, it's at minus 40 outside, walking to class outside, what is an example of a physiological mechanism to warm you up?
Shivering.
That's right, shivering, right? Like you don't have to teach yourself to shiver. It's something that you're born with, right? That's physiological. And what about behavioral mechanism? It's really cold.
Like rubbing your hands.
Yeah, rubbing your hands together, right? Blowing into your hand. Right? Roy said putting on some more clothes, and Madison said get a warm drink. Exactly, all these things are behavioral. Okay. Now, we are warm-blooded. That means we are able to maintain body temperature ourselves, again, 37 degrees Celsius. Something like a lizard, they are cold-blooded. Okay, so they don't have a way of keeping core body temperature, so they must rely on outside factors. Right? So if it's really cold, the lizard will stay on the rock and take a sun bath to warm themselves up. Do you think that is physiological, or do you think that is behavioral? Let me launch a poll for you to do. Okay, if you think taking a sun bath here is physiological, please choose A. If you think is behavioral, please choose B. Okay. If you are not able to see the poll, it might have to do with the device you're doing it. It's okay. You can just think of the answer in your head, and we'll take it up in a bit. Okay, very good response rate so far. Great. Okay, so thank you for those who have participated. 74% of you said it is behavioral. And then some of you said it's physiological. So this would be a behavioral mechanism, okay? Like the lizard, I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, but from an observer's perspective, they had to deliberately walk onto or crawl onto the rock, right? Okay, to take that sun bath, right? So if something that they do that instead of the body doing it for themselves, then that would be behavioral. Okay, what about cutting your hand? If you cut your hand, you're gonna be bleeding, and then you want to stop the bleeding. The bleeding will stop typically within a minute or so if it's a small cut. What is that? Is that physiological or behavioral?
Physiological.
That's right, right? You don't have to learn how to stop the blood, right, from bleeding. Your body does that for you. And the dog panting when it's really hot, that would be behavioral, right? Behavioral. Okay, so hopefully you understand what that means. Either way, okay, whatever they do to maintain homeostasis, that is a characteristic of all living things. All right, third characteristic, it is the ability to grow and to develop. All right, you look very different now than you did when you first came to this world, right? We are much bigger, and then we have features that we didn't have before. So that's growth and development, right? And all organisms do that. Okay, they will grow and throughout their life, and sometimes the development is very drastic change, like a butterfly, right? Um, the life cycle in early on stage, the caterpillar stage, is very different than the butterfly. But the point is, they all grow and they all develop. Next characteristic of living things is the need for energy. Okay, they all have to have some way of obtaining energy. Right? Some organisms will only eat plants. We call them herbivores. It's not important that you know that name. Okay. Some will consume other organisms. We call them carnivores. And plants, right? They could make their own food, or in this case, these are like mushrooms. They would decay dying matter, right? And obtain energy from it. And so different organisms have different ways of obtaining energy, and it's a requirement, right? To grow and to develop requires a lot of energy, right? So they must obtain that energy. All right. So just a quick recap: we have structure, order, structure, organization. Right? We have the ability to maintain homeostasis, growth and development, requirement for energy. That's 4 characteristics. Couple more to go. Respond to stimuli. Okay, a stimuli is plural. Okay, singular is stimulus, US. Stimulus is basically a trigger, some kind of trigger in the environment, right? This is a Venus flytrap. Some of you might have seen that before. Venus flytrap. For those of you who don't know, it's a plant that traps bugs. Okay, and then they eat them basically. They live in soil that are really poor in nitrogen, and nitrogen is a key element for life. So they have to eat the bugs to get the nitrogen instead of getting it from the soil. Okay, so that's response to stimuli. When the bug lands on the plant and touch these little hair things, it causes it to close up and trap the bug. That is a response to stimuli. We have similar reflexes. You touch a sharp surface, not intentionally. Like if you intentionally touch it, like you're not gonna move your hand away, right? But if you accidentally touch something sharp or something hot, the reflex will cause you to move the hand away, right? That is an example of respond to stimuli. Okay, plants grow towards the light naturally. That's an example of response to stimulus. Okay, so all living things is able to do that. Reproduction means the ability to produce your own kind. So panda parents are gonna have baby pandas, polar bears gonna have polar bears, right? Humans gonna have baby humans. Okay, reproduction is essential for the propagation of the species, right? To make more copies of themselves, right? And this last one is the ability to adapt and evolve. Right? So populations evolve over time in a way that makes them more adaptable to the environment. To be more adaptable is to increase the chances of survival in that environment. Okay. So it's important to understand individuals do not evolve. Population does. Okay. So let me just give you a brief example. This is a hummingbird, and you can see the beak is really, really long, right? So imagine long time ago, maybe, uh, there are hummingbirds that have 3 kinds of beaks, okay? Like the one with the short beak, and the one with the medium beak, and the one that has the really, really, really long beak, okay? And then on this hypothetical island, um, the flowers that they get the nectar from is has a really, really deep pocket. Okay, So which kind of hummingbird? They're all hummingbirds, okay? They just have different beak length size, just like humans have different heights, right? So to speak. Like which one would be able to get the nectar? It's a rhetorical question, right? Hopefully you think C, right? Okay. So that means these are gonna go hungry. Okay, they're not gonna be able to get the nectar, right? They may get some, okay, from like other kind of flowers if there are any. But the C is the one that is going to be able to get more food. They will be the one who has more energy to reproduce. And then if there is a genetic basis to this long beak, it will be able to have more babies that have the same trait, right? So over time, these ones will die off, right? And over many generations, you will see hummingbirds with long beaks. So that's an example of evolution, okay? A lot of people have misconception, right? Misconception is about how evolution works, okay? This is how it does not work, or this is like the wrong way of thinking about it. Many people think, okay, this one has a short beak and then it sees the really deep pocket, right? So what happens is the beak will get longer and longer and longer. Eventually, it will be able to get the nectar. Okay, so that's not true. Okay, the individual will not be able to change to adapt. Okay, the trait has to be already exist in the population uh, before uh, before they get selected. Okay, so this is another example. We have the seahorse that is quite blended in with the background and so again, many years ago, maybe there are different color seahorses of the same species. There might be these white, red one. There might be bluish one, but the blue one stands out from the background, so they get eaten. They don't survive as much. They don't make as many babies. So over time, you will have a population of seahorse that are just the red ones. Okay. Now, I do want to connect this with a real world. I mean, those are real world example, but most people can't really relate because this it seems to happen long time ago, and then you don't really observe it. But evolution is happening on a much more rapid pace when it comes to medicine. Okay, does anybody know what I am referring to? What is an example of an evolution that you've been living through in the last 2 years, and you probably have been hearing it on the news?
COVID.
That's right. Okay. Jasleen and Lorraine. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. Okay. That's right. The flu, influenza, COVID-19, and the vaccine. That is evolution happening in front of our eyes, right? So let me just very briefly explain to you what is basically going on. Okay. So the virus, let's say the COVID-19 virus, they have these spikes that are on top of the shell. Okay. So these are the spikes. Okay. So a protein has a shell and some stuff on top. We'll learn about these stuff later on. But basically, when you take the vaccine, your immune system gets educated. The vaccine will show your immune system what these spikes look like. So you will produce antibodies that will recognize these spikes. So let's say, we have some red spikes here. So your body will make antibodies, and you just have to trust me. Antibodies are Y-shaped that will recognize these spikes, and they will tag the virus and then destroy it, right? And what happens is when virus replicate, okay, and they replicate really, really fast. Once they go into a cell, they're able to make literally thousands of copies of themselves within couple of divisions. Okay, and when you do a reproduction at a very, very fast rate, there is a high chance of mutation. Mutation is basically changes in your genetic material. So just by chance, after it changes so many times, they might have a mutation that causes the red spikes to change just a little bit. Okay, so maybe it's no longer red, it's now pink. Okay, so those antibodies that you made from the vaccines that you got will no longer work in this variation. So any of these new viruses will be able to basically make more copies of themselves, right? So when you sneeze out viruses, you might sneeze out the red one and the pink one. And if most people are vaccinated only for the red one, the pink one will be the one that's surviving. And that's the one that will make more babies, right? Just like the seahorse example, right? And that's the one that is going to be spreading around the population. And now we have a new variant of concern, right? So that's why they have to come up with a new vaccine, specifically tagging that part. And you're thinking, when will this end, right? What if they change again next season and then they come up with like a blue spike? Do we need a new vaccine? Essentially, the short answer is yes, right? That's what happens with flu shot. That's why your flu shot needs update every season, right? Because every season there are new strains, new variants. Okay, so that's evolution happening in real time, in very short span of time. Zineb, is that how you pronounce your name? Zineb? I'm sorry if I'm not doing it correctly.
It's Zainab.
Zainab. Okay, I'm very sorry.
No
Yep.
problem. It's okay.
Yep, that is correct. Cancer is also an example, but for a slightly different reason. We'll be learning about cancer in lecture 7, I believe. Okay, so
Oh,
hold
okay.
that thought. We'll come
All
back
right.
to it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that's basically it. Okay, when you do your study guide, you will see list 7 characteristic of living things. So you can write it in, right, for practice, for studying, right? Okay, and then you can recall them on the test or something. All right, let's continue for a second. So we're done with the living things part. Right? Let's go back to our definition of biology, right? The scientific study of living things. We define what living things are now. So let's focus on what scientific study is. What is science? Okay. The word science is derived from the Latin word meaning to know. A lot of words in science is derived from Latin or Greek, okay, because that's where it all started. So it means to know, right? It's a way of understanding based on asking questions, based on inquiry, right? And at the core of science, it is humans' curiosity, right? We are curious about the things that are happening, right? Like if you have kids, you would know they ask you why, like every 10 minutes, okay? Like why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why can I do this? Why can I do that? Right? That's curiosity, right? And that's what's driving science essentially. There are two main scientific approaches to science. We have what's called discovery science and hypothesis-driven science. Okay, um, the two have different approach, but then they kind of work hand in hand. Again, it's not always so clear cut. You're doing one or the other. Oftentimes, you're doing both. But we're gonna start with discovery science. Okay, we're gonna start with discovery science. Discovery science involves studying a system without changing it in any way. You are mostly just making observations, recording what's going on, and then try to make some sense out of what you're observing. Okay, like, do you see any trends? Do you see any commonalities between what you're observing? Okay, that's discovery science. Global warming is an example of discovery science. Okay, you observe that certain countries are having more emission than others, and then that causes the temperature to rise. Okay? So like you try to come up with some kind of conclusion based on uh, different small observations. Now, the observations that you make in discovery science can be classified as qualitative and quantitative. Okay, qualitative is observations that are made using our senses. Okay, so our sight, smell, touch, right? All these are examples of qualitative observations. Okay, quantitative, which we'll get to in a bit, but briefly right now, is doing measurements. Okay, But let's focus on qualitative. Our senses are limited, okay? We can, I mean, we can see decently, but then we can't see really small and we can't see really far, right? So sometimes we use tools to extend our senses. You can use a microscope to see really, really small. You can use a telescope to see really, really far, right? Okay. So that will enhance our ability to observe things that otherwise would not be possible. Okay. Now let's take some notes. I do this a lot, by the way, guys. Like I switch back and forth between the PowerPoints, and sometimes we're gonna be taking some notes. So let's do some examples of qualitative observations. Qualitative observations. Okay, and I'll post these as well after class. So if you miss anything, you can always copy them after. So let's give me some example. Okay, sight. What can you observe with your eyes? I will start you off. We can describe the color of something. What else? Just type them in the chart, in the chat box if you want. Yep. Size. Very good. Justine said shape. Yep. What else? Volume. Okay, volume is a volume and height. Now these are measurements, right? If it involves numbers, then it's gonna be quantitative. Okay, quantitative. So we will save the volume and the height for later on. Good try. Anything else? Color, size, shape. Yeah, okay. Smell and texture is not with your eyes, right? Like I cannot look at something. It's like, that smell fishy, right? That would be another sense, right? Sure. I'll put it under uh, smell. That would be a different category. Maybe that's what you meant. And then touch. Okay, so for touch, we can say texture, right? Okay, what kind of texture are there? Like if you touch something, how does it feel? Huh? What are some description? Okay, yeah, it feels rough. Okay, it feels smooth. Very good. What else? Soft. Very good. Very good. What about smell? How does something smell like? What are some good okay, stinky. It smells. Okay, stinky. It smells sour. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sweet. Very good. Someone said bumpy for this one. Excellent. One more smell. Odorless. Excellent. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to smell, right? Like, carbon monoxide is odorless. That's why we need a detector for it, right? You should have a carbon monoxide detector at home for that reason. Okay, wonderful. What's another sense that we have? We have sight, smell, touch. What else am I missing here? You have 5 senses, right? We only have 3. What's the missing one, huh? That's right, hearing. Hearing. Now, hearing is a little bit like for our course, okay? We're not going to be using hearing that much, but hearing would be very useful for someone who's studying animal lives, right? Like we're talking about like a naturalist, okay, or like a marine biologist. Then you can describe how does the animal sound like, right? Okay, so might be useful for observing animals. Okay, like example, like a mating call. Okay, some frogs they have this song that they sing. I'm not making this up. This is for real. That they sing, only sing it during mating season. Okay, so that's like an observation, right? That they make. What else? Taste, yeah, taste, good. So what is? Although we should not taste anything in the lab, right? Like unless your teacher tells you to do it, okay? Like tasting things in the lab is not safe, okay? So salty, yeah. What else? Sour, good. Sweet, bitter, that's right. Okay, yeah, spicy. Okay, although spicy is actually not defined as one of the 5 tastes, but that's okay. I know what you mean. Nice, spicy, spicy. Did we miss anything? Salty, sour, sweet, bitter. Yeah, taste bland. Uh, my kids always say that. Your food tastes bland. Yeah, doesn't taste anything, tasteless, right? Okay, so these are qualitative observations. Okay, you are making the observation using your senses. There are no numbers involved. All right. So let's take a look at this picture. Okay. You don't have to know. Oops. You don't have to know what it is that you are looking at. I mean, if you know, fantastic. But that's not what I'm asking. Most of the time, we're making observations on things that we don't know what we're looking at, right? Um, so what are some qualitative observations that you can make? This is under the microscope, okay, by the way. Like you look at this, what can you tell? Okay, so some people say it looks smooth. Okay, although smooth is it's associated with mostly touch, but I can see why you say that. Okay, like it looks smooth, maybe a little bit bumpy some here and there. What else? Any just type it out. It's gray in color. Good. It's gray. I'm not sure. Someone say soft. I don't know. Like it's hard to tell, right? Like this could be pretty hard, right? It could be like a jelly bean hard, right? It's oval in shape. Good. Couple more, guys. You can do it. Grainy. Yeah, grainy. Okay, it's very crowded. Okay, they have different sizes. That's good, right? Different size. It's crowded, right? What do you mean it's measuring, Zara? Can you elaborate that a little bit? It's clustered. Yeah. Okay, you guys get the idea, right? Okay, so if I give you a picture of whatever on the quiz and I ask you to give me qualitative observations, you will be able to do that, right? Okay. Hopefully you'll be able to do that. All right. The length of the flower stem. Okay, now I gotta want you guys a little bit. Oh, measuring the length. Oh, okay. Yeah. What if you don't know what we are looking at, which is totally fine. Okay. One of the mistakes people make is they assume what they're looking at. Okay, so some people would say, "Oh, the grains looks different size." Looks they are assuming they're looking at grains or something, or they would say, "Oh, the uh, I don't know." They would just make up something. They would be like the pollen looks oval in shape, right? Like you don't know what you're looking at, right? Okay, so you shouldn't be uh restricting yourself into thinking in a particular direction. Okay, just be objective about it. Okay, just look at the picture, see what you see. Right, these are good things. Key thing is like don't put any numbers. There's no measurement involved. All right. So back to what I was saying. We're talking about discovery science, and discovery science is making observations. Okay, some observations are qualitative using our senses, and then we have quantitative. Okay, quantitative. Right? So that would be using measurements. So example that you guys already told me would be like length, right? How long is something? Okay. Someone said volume before. What else? Help me out, please. The amount of something, yeah, like how much do you see, right? Amount. How many are there? Like so under the microscope, I see, whatever, 23 bacteria. Shape would be qualitative, right? Is it Augie, if I'm pronouncing your name right? That is qualitative, right? Because you just use your eyes, right? You're not like doing any uh, numeric measurements, right? Okay. Yep, quantity, amount. Anything else? Can have things like density, right? How crowded it is. Like this doesn't look very dense. Okay, it's not really crowded, right? This is very dense, right? Very dense. A lot of these are bacteria, by the way. A lot of bacteria per unit space, right? So very dense, not very dense. And we can have a number to describe the density, right? Anything else, guys? I'm just looking for two more. Two more, please. Anyone else? Things that we have to measure. We measure a lot of stuff every day. Like when you go buy things at the grocery, you use measurements, right? Don't you? Yeah, the weight, exactly. How many pounds, right? How many ounce? How many grams? Okay, height, sure. Very good, right? So this is a microscope view, and sometimes they have a reference. Okay, like this is a reference. I should have a different color. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, like this is a measuring reference, and this is 10 micrometer. Okay, this symbol is pronounced mu, okay, and it stands for micrometer. Micrometer. 1 meter has 1 million micrometer. Okay, so like from here to here is 10 micrometers. So you can say, this bacterium is about 5 micrometer. I mean, it's not super accurate, but it gives you a numeric description, right? Okay, so that's that. All right, I am gonna let you take just a brief break. I know I've been talking a long time. We still have about half an hour, so I'll give you like a 5-minute break, and then we will resume at 9:57. Okay, 9:57. And then we'll do more. Okay, so see you in a bit. 5-minute break. All right, let's resume here. Okay. We'll continue to talk about discovery science now that we understand we can make observations, right? It doesn't matter whether you're making observations with your senses, qualitative, or making observations with measurements, that would be quantitative. The key idea of discovery science is to look at all the observations that you've made and identify some kind of trend, identify some kind of commonality, right? In all the things that you have observed. And based on that, you come up with a generalization, okay? You come up with some kind of conclusion, okay? Some kind of broad statement. So let me give you an example to help you understand. Sometimes I take my kids to Dollarama and let them choose something that they want to buy. Okay, so one time I was at Dollarama, and my daughter wanted to get this pack of erasers. Okay, like it's like those fruit things, but erasers, like a banana eraser, strawberry eraser, whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, she wanted to get the eraser, right? But then it doesn't have a price tag on it. And so she came to me and she's like, how much is this gonna cost? And then I was thinking, right? It's a great opportunity to teach her about inductive reasoning. Okay, so I'm like, why don't we take a look at where you got this from? So she took me to the aisle, and I got it from here. All right, I was like, okay, let's look at the wall. All right, how much is the ruler over there? She's like, oh, that's $2. I was like, great. How much is the stamps? Are the stamps? She's like, $2. How much are the paper clips? $2. And then she had a moment of realization. She's like, oh, everything on this wall is $2. I was like, you got it, probably. Right? So that's inductive reasoning. You make observations, multiple observations, and you come up with some kind of generalization, right? Now, there is a very important thing to consider. The generalization might not be correct. Okay, maybe everything is $2 on this wall, but not those erasers. Those may be like $4, right? But we wouldn't know. Okay, the point is you were able to come up with some generalization, and to see whether that generalization is true or not, you will have to do more testing, right? So that is an example of inductive reasoning. Okay, you go from specific observations, specific examples like observation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, how many ever you need to make, and then you come up with some kind of general statement. That is inductive reasoning. Do you understand that? Any questions? Let's use a real biology example, right? So suppose you look at the wings of a fly, and you're like, oh, that's what it looks. That's actually what it looks like. Okay, so like, all right, fly is made of cells. Okay? And then you look at the fish, you're like, oh, fish is made of cells. Okay, tree is made of cells. Bird is made of cells. Mushroom is made of cells. Okay, so these are individual observation, right? What's the general statement? What's the conclusion that you can make based on all these observations? Help me out. What's the general statement? Anyone? Okay. Nia said all those things are made out of cells. They are made up of cells. Everything is made of cells. Okay, yeah, I think Ramon, your statement is the most accurate one. Okay, living things, right? Living things are made of cells, right? Some kind of broad statement. All these are living things, and they're all made of cells. So general conclusion: living things are made of cells. Does anybody need any clarification? Any follow-up question? It's okay if you have a question. Someone else probably have the exact same question. Okay, great. Now, in the real, I keep on saying in the real world, but what I meant is like as a application of this, like in everyday life, right? This is what people do nowadays. When you hear about AI, right? Artificial intelligence. They are training the computers to come up with these trends, right? In diagnostic imaging, for example. Right? Diagnostic imagings are like MRI, CT scan. So they would feed these computers, these programs, all these images of people with cancer, for example. Okay, so like this is a brain scan of someone with brain tumor, right? Another brain scanner. So they feed them like literally thousands and thousands of these image, and then the computer is using inductive reasoning, the software, right? The AI. They're looking for clues and trends of these images. They're like, oh, brain cancer has this feature. Okay, another slide. I find the same feature, same feature, same feature, and then ultimately, right, the program would come up with some kind of general statement. Okay, if if the image has this feature, it probably is a particular brain tumor. So in training the computer to do it, right, using inductive reasoning, right, they're hoping one day you'll be able to use these powerful AIs to make more accurate diagnosis. Okay, even better than humans in some cases. So that's inductive reasoning. Now, most people are okay up to this point. And then they get a little bit confused when I teach them the next one. Right? The next one is deductive reasoning, okay, which is the opposite of inductive reasoning. So in deductive reasoning, you are taking that general statement, that we made, and then you are applying it to different scenarios. Okay, you're applying to new situations to make a prediction. Okay, example. Previously, we said all organisms, all living things are made out of cell. And then to use it in deductive reasoning, one can say if all organisms are made of cell, and if ant is a living organism, then an ant will consist of cells. Okay, so you apply it to a specific case, to the ant. In the case of the Dollarama example, right? After my daughter realized everything from this wall is probably $2, and since she got the erasers from this wall, even though it doesn't have a price tag on it, deductive reason would tell you this is probably $2 as well. Do you guys understand? Right, so making observations, many observations, and then coming up with one broad statement, that's inductive reasoning. And then when you apply it to different scenarios, going from general to specific, that is deductive reasoning. This is an example of an application question. Okay. I promise you I will put this exact question on the first quiz. All right. So why don't you try it out first, and then I will launch the poll. Okay. Actually, you know what? Some people say the poll is in the way, it blocks the question or something. I'll let you read it first. Okay, and then I'll launch the poll in a second. Okay, which of the following is an example of deductive reasoning? Okay, read it first. Don't put the choice in the chat box. I will launch the poll in a bit. This is multiple choice, one correct answer only. Which is a good point, by the way. Like on the test, how do you know if it's one choice or many choices, right? For the multi-select question, I will always put in brackets, select all correct answers. If it doesn't say select all correct answers, that means there's only one correct answer. The software will prevent you from selecting more than one answer anyways, if it's not a multi-select. Okay, I will launch the poll. The poll is anonymous, okay? So don't be shy. Just choose your answer. Anyone else? I'm going to be closing the poll. So if you want to put something, please go ahead. All right, so we got a bit of everything. Let's take a closer look at this example. Hold on. Give me a second. I just need to copy this over. All right. Which of the following is an example of deductive reasoning? So deductive reasoning is going from general to specific. Okay, that means you're going to start with some broad statement, right? So let's take a look at it. All viruses require a host to replicate. That's a general statement. Okay, so maybe that's the right answer. Okay, but don't choose it yet. Okay, like finish reading everything first, right? COVID-19, HPV, Ebola, influenza viruses, they require a host to replicate. Therefore, all viruses require a host to replicate. That is going from a bunch of specific examples to a broad general statement, right? So this is actually going the opposite way. This is inductive, right? So that's not the answer. Okay, this is going from specific to general. That's why that is not the answer. We're looking for general to specific. All viruses require a host to replicate. Okay, that's a general statement. And then COVID-19 requires a host to replicate, therefore COVID-19 is a virus. That sounds very similar to A. Okay, so both of these are possible answers. COVID-19 is a virus and it requires a host to replicate. Ebola is a virus, therefore it also requires a host to replicate. That is jumping from one example to another example, right? You're not looking at many observations, creating a general statement. It's just one thing to another. That's not deductive reasoning. So far, I hope I have convinced you why B and D are not correct answers. Let's take a closer look at A here. All viruses requires a host to replicate. COVID-19 is a virus, right? Therefore, it requires a host to replicate. That sounds correct, right? But this one also sounds correct. COVID-19 requires a host to replicate, therefore COVID-19 is a virus. Okay, so how do you pick? Well, it turns out the logic for C is not quite proper. Okay, let's take a look at why. I will use a similar, a different example with similar formats to show you why this is not correct. Instead of saying all viruses requires a host to replicate, I will say all birds have wings. Okay, so that's my general statement. I am just replacing the word virus with birds and then require a host to replicate. I'm saying have wings. Okay. Next sentence, I will give a specific example that have wings. Okay. So for example, bees. Bees have wings. Right. Following the same structure, therefore what? What's my conclusion if I have to follow this structure? Therefore, bees are what?
Birds.
Birds, right? And you can see right away why this logic is not correct, right? Okay, so that's why C is wrong. Right? If you take a look at here, all viruses requires a host to replicate. COVID-19 is a virus, right? Therefore, it requires a host to replicate. You see, it's like green and then purple, the next logic also has to flow from green to purple. This is backwards. Green to purple, and then purple to green, right? So to speak, in terms of colors. Do you guys understand this? Please ask questions if you have any.
Yes, it was 3.
Is okay? Okay, thank you. All right. I promise you I'll put the same question on the quiz, but don't just choose A, okay? Like it's gonna it's gonna be scrambled, okay? The order is gonna be different. You still have to read them, all right? Make sure you have a good understanding. Madison's asked, is there another example of deductive reasoning or of what? Like another example of a multiple choice? Oh, okay, of deductive reasoning. Yeah, sure. Okay. So for practice, yeah. I mean, there are some in the practice quiz, right? As well. So like the self quiz. So maybe you can do that as well. Let's go to the study guide here for a second. All right. And yeah, I encourage you guys to print this out if you haven't already. Here's a table. Maybe doing this table together will help, you know, bring out more clarity. So let's start with the induction. This is the study guide, and if you don't have it, that's okay. You can just copy it down in your notebook. All right. So the definition of induction is to come up with a general statement based on many related observations. Okay. So again, you go from like observation 1, whatever that is, observation 2, observation 3, and you make many observations. And from that, you're gonna make a general statement. Okay. It's like, you know, there was a gathering on Saturday. Okay. You know, Joseph went to the gathering. Okay? He got COVID or something. Okay. Mary went to the gathering. She got COVID. Okay. Someone else went there. She got COVID as well. Okay. So these are different observations, right? And then the general statement is someone is spreading COVID at the gathering. Okay. And then the deduction part, deduction is like applying the general statement to a specific case, right? The deduction is that, okay, so someone had COVID at the gathering. I went to the gathering. Okay, I better get tested, right? Do you understand how the two parts are different? Okay, you have to go from the observations to the general statement, and then from the general statement applies to a specific case, right? Okay. There's another example. Stage 4 lung cancer kills, therefore all cancer kills. I would change that a little bit. Okay, maybe you look at you observe thousands of lung cancer patients. By the time they reach stage 4, okay, their mortality goes up. Okay, like the chances of dying is very high. And then the general statement would be like stage 4 cancer is very deadly. Okay, that's like a general statement, right? Okay. All right. Example. I mean, you can come up with the example, right? So I was saying what did I say? I forgot what I said already. I said so many things. Yes. Okay. So like David got COVID from the party. Okay, and then make up your favorite name, okay? Do a bunch of names. They also got COVID. Got COVID at the party, got COVID at the party, got COVID at the party. Okay, and then the conclusion, general statement. Someone is spreading COVID at the party. Okay? Now, deduction. Deduction is the other way around, right? Applying a general statement to a specific situation to make a prediction. Now remember, you don't know if that prediction is correct. Okay, you're gonna have to do testing on it. Okay, which is what we will learn on Thursday. All right, so this is going from the general statement, right, to specific. So someone is spreading COVID at the party, right? And then now you apply it. I went to the party. I might have caught COVID. No doubt, I am confident that you have been using induction and deduction throughout your everyday lives. Okay, but we just don't call it that, right? Okay, it's part of our ways of navigating through everyday lives, right? Okay, you know, you're like, oh, we gotta get out the door early today because it's the first day of school. I gotta get the kids to school on time, right? It's because there's gonna be a lot of traffic. How did you know that? Well, you know that based on all the previous years that you've taken your kids to school, right? Like it's a zoo out there, right? So like you made that general statement. First day of school is always crazy with all the traffic. And today is the first day of school, so I should get out of the door early to avoid the crowd, to avoid the traffic, right? That's the induction deduction piece. Okay. Well, that is the end of the first class. Thank you so much for coming on time and sticking around for the whole class. I will post an announcement on eCentennial directing you to the recording. It should be up in about an hour or so. And on Thursday, we will continue to have our lessons. And if you need anything at all, please feel free to email me. I will be sure to get back to you. Okay, so thanks once again. I will see you all on Thursday at 8:30. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day. No, there's nothing you should work on. Maybe just go through the notes again. Do some of these study guide questions if you could. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.